Alan. Hey, congratulations on your documentary, My Sister Liv.
Oh, cheers. It's great to meet you, Gig.
Hey, it's great to meet you too. So, and more of a congratulations being showcased for the Doc NYC. How does it feel for you?
Oh, it's incredible. It's been a long journey for this film. It's been nearly 3.5 years in the making, and differing from my other films, which were mainly music based. This one still is about a couple of musicians, but it's covering the topic of teen mental health, and so it's a pretty personal, very personal story, and it's one of those ones that I'm really happy that we're Doc NYC's the North American premiere.
So, what sparked you to do this documentary in the first place for yourself?
Well, it was right as I was finishing up Quincy, um, the documentary on Quincy Jones, and the producer Paula Dupree Pesman, who I worked with on all of my films, brought this story to me, and it was she was really good friends with the family, um, and this uh, had told me about the tragic passing of Liv, the Liv Koenig, and the family and Paula had talked about the idea of doing a story on Liv, and it's something that would help other families and kids be able to talk about mental health and in particular teen suicide, and be able to talk about it more openly. And yeah, when they came to me and asked if I would come on board, I was delighted because being an artist, you deal with the anxiety. It seems to be a very common thing with artists. So as myself growing up, I dealt with a lot of anxiety through the time. I'm also a musician, so those pressures of trying to be as good as possible, and yeah, but so in that respect, it was appealing to me from just a base level of like mental health and how important that is. But it was also the story of this family and um, how open they were to share their experience, and in the hopes that it would just inspire people to talk more openly about the subject.
Now, you mentioned that you've done music documentaries before. How challenging was it to shift from one genre to something much more serious like this one?
It's well, I feel like it's all using the same muscle in the brain, the storytelling aspect. The music documentaries just happen to be about musicians. So um, the way I like to make films is to pretend that I'm not a musician, and the regular person that has doesn't care about music can enjoy it and hopefully learn something and get inspired by the characters. This story, the both of the main characters in the film were musicians, um, so I felt just a connection immediately. But I'm always on the lookout just for a compelling story. So I'm not really limited to just doing music documentaries, I don't think. But this is one of those stories that when we started making it in 2019, it was nobody wanted to talk about mental health. It was actually one of those things, and I was actually um, a little nervous about the cracking open the subject, but it only took me about a week to realize that, oh, that's actually just all stigma. And then I started to understand, like, oh, this is actually the problem here, is that people don't want to talk about this, similar to how they didn't want to talk about cancer 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So um, yeah, so that drove me through the process of the the idea of like, okay, if I can just turn the needle a little bit towards people feeling comfortable about talking about their mental health or checking in with others, that's to me that's um, was a big goal of mine for this film.
So that begs the question because you brought it up a couple of times. It's we're talking about mental health here, and a lot of people don't want to talk about mental health. So how do you put them into the comfort zone to talk about this very, very difficult subject, especially for your documentary?
Well, through the to answer that, I think an example is through I do a lot of test screenings of all of my movies, all the way through the process. And when we started test screening this film, I started test screening it very early on, and one of the things that we did immediately was bring on a team of health professionals to vet the film every step of the way, because the last thing we wanted to do was to cause any harm. So we do all these vetting sessions, and then we would start testing the film. And one of the things that would come up from the kids that would watch it is that they have nothing like this. That's a current story that's in their world. Something that they can grab onto that's like, oh, that kid is like me or like my friend, or for parents to be like, oh, they're very similar to my daughter or my son. So a lot of the content out there, because there's so much stigma around the subject, a lot of the content is very PSA based. And just from doing these screenings, the kids just let us know that they don't want to watch PowerPoint presentations about it. They don't want to watch these PSAs. They want to watch content. They want to watch a movie that has a story and relatable characters. So that was a driver here with this film, is like, how can we approach a subject that's seemingly so taboo, and make it entertaining for everybody, so that they can get something from it, not to scare them, but to just bring them into a world, and have them be open to uh, talking about mental health and checking in with friends. And one of those things with the film too is that it goes through, it's basically a love letter from an older sister to her younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then we follow the older sister's journey beyond that. And that using that being able to use that letter format and being able to use all of this very recent archival footage, that's keeps it very personal, and also hopefully relatable to these kids that are in it right now. They're in a crisis, there's a mental health crisis going on, and hopefully it's just, yeah, as I mentioned, turns the needle a little bit so that people can open up a bit more.
It sounds like the family was very open to your documentary, especially releasing the archival footage to you.
Yes, and that's what's so special about them. It was a few days after the funeral that they had spoken to Paula, the producer, about doing this story. And Paula had just mentioned to them that if you ever in the future want to do something, I'm here for you, and I've got some very trusted people that could put something together. And Tess and Honey said, we want to do it today. We want to start, and we want to try and help others prevent this situation by sharing their own story. So I got the call to see if I wanted to direct the film, and you couldn't. It's one of those ones you can't say no. It's that they were so compelling and such beautiful people, and they're in the middle of dealing with this grief, and wanted, out of the goodness of their hearts, to share what they were going through, so that other people could learn from it. And there's not
Most
many people.
excellent. Most excellent. Well, let me wrap it up with one more thing with you, Alan, because audiences will have a chance to watch your film here. What is the one most important take that you hope they walk away with after viewing your documentary like this?
I think if they can simply open up a little bit more to their friends and family, and feel a bit more comfortable to talk about the subject. I'm not going to pretend like it's a single film can change everything, but the idea that if it can just inspire somebody when they see somebody that look, just questioning how they're feeling, just talk to them about it, you know, and that act of kindness is something that could potentially save somebody's life at some point. So that's what I'm one of the goals here, and also for them to be entertained and have uh yeah, that's it, mate.
Well, hey, thank you for bringing this powerful story onto screen, and I am sure a lot of people will be touched by your film here.
Oh, good on you, Gig. Thanks so much for chatting with me, mate.
Hey, thank you for putting up with me. Thank you.
No worries.